Hi everyone! If you remember, a few months ago I bought a bunch of art supplies from Japan, including some poster colors by NICKER, some paint brushes, and some special paper that the Japanese background animators use with the poster colors to paint their backgrounds. So today I finally took the time to try this out, and I went on the NICKER channel because they have a lot of tutorials there and amazing paintings. And I followed a tutorial. It's a sky, a cloud, and the ocean. I changed it and made it my own. So I prepared everything and I used only 3 colors that came in that set. The light blue, cerulean blue, and white. Later on, I also took a couple colors from my Sakura set of poster colors because I guess I needed that for the shadows in the clouds. So with the paper, I was not quite sure what to think of it. It's very interesting. It's supposed to be very resistant, and it's quite thick, not as much as a 140-pound watercolor paper. It's just a different texture. So I really didn't know what to expect. But I noticed that a lot of Japanese artists wet their paper. They actually soak their paper, both sides, so that it really helps you blend all the colors together, especially when you do a sky or a background like that. Before you add all your details, it gives it a very soft look. The great thing about that too is that your paper will not buckle. And I've seen watercolor artists also in the US do that with a watercolor paper instead of taping it down. And because the tabletop that I work on is not the best quality, I put my cutting mat down and I used a large ceramic tile to put my paper on it. So I really soaked both sides of my paper and let the paper absorb it. So then I started following the tutorial. I put the white paint on the top left corner and then I went darker and darker. In the middle, I used a light blue, and then I used a cerulean blue. I realized that I should have planned better and sketched where I wanted my clouds to be, and also probably draw the horizon line. It would have prevented me from making too many mistakes. But it's a first try, and I'm still learning. So once all the colors were applied, I used a dry hake brush, and I blended the 3 colors together, softening everything. And then I used a clean, damp brush to remove the pigments from the paper and start forming my clouds. And that's a technique that is used quite often with watercolor. Once the clouds were established, I used some white paint and applied it on the brightest highlights of the clouds. Then it was time for the shadows, and I used a mix of blue, red, and yellow, although I was not very happy with the addition of the yellow. I wanted the shadows to be more purple than gray, so later on I added a little bit more red. Again, that's something I'll have to adjust next time. Once I was done with my clouds, the paper was getting really dry, so I soaked the bottom part of the paper again to paint the ocean. I used a cerulean blue for that, and I left some white spots for the reflection of the clouds. And then I did some splatters while the paper was still wet to give an impression of shiny water. But I think the paper was still too wet when I did that, and it spread a little bit too much. So I tried to fudge it and make it look better, and I kind of messed up a bit at some point, but I thought, whatever, I'm still practicing. So then I used a special ruler with a groove in it, and I painted the horizon line, which I realized shortly after that was way too high. I should have painted it a little bit lower, because now it looks like my clouds are sitting on the water, which doesn't look very natural at all. I tried to fix that a little bit, but it didn't really work. So from then on, I just fudged everything. I tried to fix everything. I realized that because of that, my reflections were not really in the right spots. So I tried to fix that, and then the paper was getting too dry, so the paint was not blending very well. So I decided to re-wet the ocean and repaint it, and I was a little bit happier with it after the second time around, except for the horizon line. But it was a great learning experience, and I really loved it. So I'm going to have to try that again and maybe do different skies and some landscapes, and I really can't wait to play more with my poster colors. Now you might ask, what about the paper? The paper was very nice. It took all the water very well. It didn't peel. It works very well with poster colors. I don't know how well it would work with watercolor. I would have to try, but it's really a match made in heaven for these two together. At some point I was wondering, I didn't really soften my brush strokes very well, and also I saw some little bubbly pigments here and there, and I thought that the final result wouldn't look very good. But when it all dried, then everything was very smooth looking, very well blended. So I think the fact that I really soaked the paper with water helped spread the pigments and help blend everything. The paper didn't buckle, and it worked great. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're brand new here, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the little bell. I'll see you soon in another video. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.